The airport was alive with chaos. Rolling suitcases, last-minute announcements, and the constant hum of travelers rushing to gates. Among the noise, two men stood apart. Chuck Norris, calm but alert, scanned the crowd with a soldier's eye. Beside him, Steven Seagal's gaze moved slower, colder, as if weighing every detail. It was supposed to be a quiet transit. A connecting flight, nothing more. But then Norris saw it. Near the check-in line, a young girl no older than 16 clutched her boarding pass with trembling hands. Her eyes flickered across the terminal, not in boredom but in desperation. Twice her fingers brushed her chest. 3 taps, a pause. Then again, Seagal leaned closer. "You see that?" Norris nodded once. Morse code SOS, the girl was signaling. Silently, in plain sight, praying someone would notice. But who was she signaling against? The answer revealed itself as 3 men closed in around her. Dark suits, hard expressions, moving like wolves circling prey. Their casual stance was a mask, but their eyes betrayed the truth. They weren't family. They weren't friends. Traffickers. Seagal shifted his weight, watching as one of the men whispered something to the girl, forcing a smile. Her body stiffened, her eyes screaming louder than her lips ever could. "She's trapped," Norris muttered, "and she knows it." "Question is," Seagal replied, voice low and edged with steel, "how do we move without blowing the whole thing?" Because this wasn't a bar fight. This was an international airport, full of innocent people, cameras, and security that wouldn't understand the difference between heroes and hijackers. One wrong move and panic would ignite. The traffickers started steering the girl toward the restricted hallway near Gate 17. She resisted slightly, earning a sharp squeeze on her arm. Her lips trembled, but no sound came out. The silent SOS continued, and weaker now, more frantic. Norris's jaw tightened. "We wait too long, she's gone." Seagal's eyes narrowed, calculating. "Then we don't wait." The 2 men slipped into the moving crowd, shadows in plain sight, closing the distance one careful step at a time. The predators thought they had control. They had no idea the hunt had just turned against them. The crowd pressed thick around Gate 17. Families with strollers, business travelers on phones, tourists weighed down with duty-free bags. None of them noticed the silent battle forming in their midst. The girl's eyes darted again, desperate. Her signal was breaking down into jerky, trembling taps, SOS, stuttering, fading. Norris locked onto her like a hawk. "Her breathing's up," he murmured. "She's losing nerve." Seagal's tone was flat. "Then we cut in before she freezes." The 3 traffickers tightened their formation. One walked ahead, clearing the path. Another stayed close at her back, a hand hovering just over her shoulder like an invisible leash. The 3rd man, tall and scarred, kept scanning the terminal. His gaze brushed past Norris and Seagal without suspicion. To him, they were just 2 more weary travelers. Big mistake. Norris slipped his phone to his ear, pretending to talk. "We split. I'll shadow from the left. You cut them off at the corridor." Seagal's lips barely moved. "Don't let her out of sight." The traffickers angled toward the security door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." A uniformed guard stood nearby, but instead of challenging them, he glanced once at the scarred man and looked away. Seagal's jaw tightened. Corrupt. He's bought. The girl stumbled, her boarding pass slipping from her hand. She bent quickly to grab it, but the man at her back yanked her upright before she could draw attention. Her lips trembled. Her fingers tapped frantically against her leg. "Help me." Norris's patience burned out. He cut through a cluster of tourists, brushing past rolling luggage and startled complaints. His eyes never left the girl. The scarred man caught the movement. His gaze sharpened. Their eyes locked, predator meeting predator. Norris didn't blink. The trafficker muttered something sharp in another language. Instantly, the group quickened pace toward the corridor. The girl's steps dragged, her silent pleas now a visible struggle. Seagal was already in motion. He moved like smoke, sliding between 2 passengers and appearing at the mouth of the corridor before the traffickers could reach it. His presence hit them like a wall. The scarred man froze, recognition flashing across his face. "Seagal?" Seagal's expression didn't change. His voice was ice. "She's not going anywhere with you." The airport noise suddenly seemed distant. The traffickers exchanged sharp glances. The one at the girl's back reached inside his jacket. Too late, Norris struck first. He moved through the crowd like a thunderbolt, his fists snapping out in a blur. The man crumpled before his weapon cleared leather, collapsing into a baggage cart with a crash that startled bystanders. Panic rippled through the terminal. People shouted, some ducked, others froze, phones already raised to film. The scarred man shoved the girl hard toward the third trafficker. "Move her," he barked, but Seagal was already there. His hand clamped around the trafficker's wrist like a steel vice. One twist and bones cracked. The man screamed, dropping to his knees. The girl stumbled free, eyes wide, caught between terror and hope. Norris reached her side in 2 strides, steadying her with a gentle grip. "You're safe," he said firmly. "Stay low." The scarred man's face darkened. He ripped a knife free, lunging at Norris. Seagal intercepted, his body flowing like liquid. The blade flashed, then clattered to the floor as Seagal redirected the strike with surgical precision. His counter was brutal, a palm strike that sent the scarred man staggering back into a pillar. By now, alarms blared. Security officers rushed forward, but confusion reigned. Who was attacking who? The girl clung to Norris, shaking. Around them, travelers screamed and scattered, the once orderly terminal collapsing into chaos. Seagal's eyes swept the corridor beyond. Gate 17. More shadows moved inside. Reinforcements. "This isn't over," he growled. Norris tightened his stance, shielding the girl behind him. "Then let's finish it before they get her out." The battle for Gate 17 had only just begun. The alarm screamed across the terminal, but the noise only fueled the chaos. Passengers scattered in every direction, some diving for cover, others filming with shaky hands. Uniformed guards hesitated, unsure who the aggressors were. To them, Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal looked like attackers, but the real threat was already slipping into the shadows of the restricted corridor. "Move her," Norris barked, guiding the girl behind a row of steel benches. "Stay down. Don't run unless I tell you." Her wide, terrified eyes locked on his. She nodded, clutching her torn boarding pass like a lifeline. Seagal stepped forward, his silhouette filling the corridor. "They'll try to funnel her out through the service doors," he said coldly. "We cut them off here." The scarred trafficker snarled, wiping blood from his lip. Reinforcements poured from the service hallway. 6 men in plain clothes, each moving with the confidence of trained muscle. They fanned out, forming a wall of violence. Norris flexed his fists, calm in the storm. 6 each? Seagal gave a slow, almost bored shrug. "If you can keep up." The first wave charged. Norris moved like a hammer. A straight right exploded against a thug's jaw, sending him spinning into a wall. His follow-up kick shattered another man's ribs, the crack audible even over the alarms. He pivoted, driving his elbow into a third attacker's temple before the man even realized what hit him. Seagal was the opposite. Liquid, surgical, merciless. A wrist snapped, a throat strike silenced another. He caught a charging thug by the collar, using his own momentum to slam him through a glass sign with a crash of shattering shards. His movements were controlled fury, every strike designed to end the fight in seconds. The corridor became a war zone. Screams echoed. The girl covered her ears, eyes squeezed shut as chaos unfolded around her. But still the traffickers pressed forward. The scarred man barked orders in his native tongue, driving his soldiers toward the girl. He didn't care how many fell. All that mattered was delivering the prize. Norris caught sight of 2 thugs breaking off, angling around toward the benches where the girl hid. "Seagal, left flank." Seagal was already moving. His hand shot out, grabbing one thug by the throat mid-charge, slamming him into the other with bone-crunching force. Both collapsed in a heap at his feet. He turned, eyes cold as ice. Not today. The scarred man drew a pistol, leveling it at the girl. His finger tightened. Norris reacted without thought. He dove, sweeping a luggage cart into the man's line of fire. The shot went wide, the bullet sparking off steel. In the same motion, Norris closed the distance, his boot snapping out in a roundhouse kick that knocked the weapon clean from the man's grip. The gun skittered across the floor, right into Seagal's hand. Without hesitation, he ejected the magazine and tossed the weapon aside, never breaking stride as he dropped another thug with a crushing knee strike. The tide shifted. One by one, the reinforcements fell, broken and groaning on the polished tile floor. Within moments, only the scarred man remained standing, his chest heaving, eyes burning with hate. He backed toward the emergency exit door, hand reaching behind him. "You think this ends here?" He spat. "She's just one. There are hundreds more, thousands." Norris advanced, fist clenched. Not if we have anything to say about it. Seagal's voice cut sharper than steel. You're done, the scarred man sneered, pulling a small device from his pocket. He pressed it, and alarms changed pitch. Suddenly, metal shutters began sliding down over the terminal entrances. Automatic lockdown. The airport was sealing shut. Norris's eyes narrowed. He's trapping us in, the scarred man laughed, backing through the exit door. You saved one girl, but you'll die here with her. Then he was gone, swallowed by the service tunnels beyond Gate 17. For a moment, silence hung heavy. The reinforcements lay unconscious or groaning, the air thick with adrenaline and smoke from a triggered fire alarm. Norris turned to the girl, kneeling to meet her trembling gaze. You're safe now. We've got you. But Seagal wasn't so sure. His eyes followed the slammed exit door, calculating. No, he's not finished. That was just a warning. And in the distance beyond the locked-down airport, the faint roar of engines echoed. Not commercial planes, but something darker, heavier. Reinforcements were already on their way. The real war hadn't even started. The grinding echo of steel shutters slamming into place vibrated through the terminal. Passengers screamed as their exits disappeared, panic spreading faster than the alarms. Security forces tried to regain control, but the chaos was too thick. In the middle of it all, Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal stood over the fallen traffickers, their breathing steady, eyes locked on the emergency exit where the scarred man had vanished. He's not running, Seagal said, voice low. He's leading us. Norris glanced back at the girl, still crouched near the benches, tears streaking her face. She can't stay here, not with the place in lockdown. The girl clung to his arm when he knelt beside her. Her lips trembled, but her voice finally broke free. A whisper, raw and shaking. Don't let him take me back, please. He'll kill me. Norris's gaze softened. You're not going anywhere with him, not now. Not ever. Seagal's eyes swept the panicked terminal. Security officers were rushing toward them, weapons drawn, uncertain who the real threat was. We don't have time. If they detain us, she's lost. We move now. Norris helped the girl to her feet. Stay close. Don't let go. The three slipped through the emergency door just before a squad of armed guards reached the benches. The heavy door clanged shut behind them, sealing them away from the chaos of the terminal. The world on the other side was different. The service tunnels stretched like arteries. Beneath the airport, dimly lit concrete passages, humming with machinery. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long, twitching shadows. The air smelled of oil, metal, and damp stone. The girl squeezed Norris's hand. Her voice was barely audible. They use these tunnels to move us. No cameras, no witnesses. Seagal's jaw clenched. That's why he came here. He knows this maze. He can vanish with reinforcements before anyone realizes. Norris tightened his grip on her hand. Then we don't give him the chance. They advanced quickly, boots echoing against the concrete floor. Every corner was a threat, every shadow alive. The tunnels twisted deeper, branching into maintenance corridors and luggage routes. Somewhere ahead, faint footsteps echoed. The scarred man wasn't far. Then came another sound, the growl of engines. Seagal raised a hand, motioning them to stillness. The noise grew louder until the source revealed itself. Two black vans roaring down a service lane, headlights cutting through the gloom. Reinforcements armed, fast and ready. Norris shoved the girl against the wall, shielding her with his body. Stay behind us. The van screeched to a halt, doors sliding open. Half a dozen men spilled out, weapons gleaming under the harsh lights. These weren't common thugs. They moved with military precision, rifles at the ready. Seagal's eyes narrowed. Private contractors, mercenaries. The scarred man stepped out behind them, a cruel smile splitting his face. You should have stayed out of this, Norris. Seagal, you can't fight an army. Norris stepped forward, unflinching. Then it's a good thing we're not afraid of armies. The mercenaries opened fire. Bullets ripped through the tunnel, sparks flying as rounds struck pipes and concrete. Norris shoved the girl flat, rolling behind a support column as chunks of stone exploded around them. Seagal moved like a shadow, slipping behind cover, eyes cold and calculating. The scarred man's laughter echoed through the chaos. Every second you waste here, another plane leaves. Another shipment of girls disappears into the world. You saved one, and doomed 100 more. Norris's blood burned hot. He exchanged a glance with Seagal, a silent understanding. They had no choice. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was a war. Seagal moved first. He burst from cover with predatory speed, his hand snapping a rifle aside before the mercenary could adjust. A vicious strike to the throat dropped the man instantly. Seagal grabbed his weapon mid-fall, flipping it into his grip. He fired, controlled precise bursts, cutting down two more before they could react. Norris exploded from the opposite side, charging straight into the gunfire. Bullets whizzed past, but his movements were unstoppable. He slammed a mercenary into the side of the van, his fist crushing bone with a single strike. He ripped the rifle from his grip, smashing the butt into another man's jaw with thunderous force. The tunnel became a battlefield. Gunfire, shouts, the crash of fists against flesh. Pipes burst, spraying steam into the air, turning the corridor into a fog-filled war zone. Through it all, the girl huddled behind cover, hands pressed to her ears, tears streaming as the violence roared around her. The scarred man didn't fight. He retreated, slipping into the deeper tunnels while his mercenaries bought him time. His laughter echoed again, mocking, fading. When the last mercenary hit the floor, silence settled heavy in the fog. Bodies lay sprawled, weapons scattered across the concrete. Norris grabbed the girl, pulling her back to her feet. His voice was steady but urgent. "We can't stay here." He's running deeper. He knows this maze better than we do. Seagal wiped blood from his knuckles, his eyes hard. He's not just moving her. He's moving all of them. This was never about one girl. She's a message. Norris frowned. Message? The girl nodded weakly, her voice trembling but clear. "They told us. If one got rescued, 10 more would vanish. He wanted me to be caught, to lure you in." Seagal's eyes went cold as stone. A trap. The tunnel lights flickered once, then died, plunging them into darkness. Somewhere in the black, heavy doors slammed shut. The sound echoed like a final verdict. They were locked inside. The tunnels were drowned in darkness. Only the faint hiss of steam and the echo of distant machinery remained. The girl clung to Chuck Norris's sleeve, her breathing ragged, her body trembling. Seagal reached into his jacket and clicked a small tactical light. A narrow cone of white carved through the black, cutting across rusted pipes and dripping concrete. Shadows stretched like claws across the walls. "They killed the power to box us in," Seagal muttered. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp, restless. "He wants us to chase him blind." Norris nodded. "Then we turned the hunt back on him." They moved cautiously, boots splashing through puddles, the girl in between them. Every few steps the tunnel split, branching into new paths, identical and endless. It was a maze designed to confuse, and the scarred man knew it better than anyone. Then a voice slithered through the dark. "You think you're rescuers heroes, but you don't understand it. You're insects, fighting a storm." The girl flinched at the sound. Recognizing it immediately, she buried her face against Norris's arm. "It's him," she whispered. The scarred man's voice echoed from hidden speakers, bouncing around the tunnel until it was impossible to tell where it came from. "Every step you take leads you deeper, and when you finally find me, you'll wish you hadn't." Seagal's lips curled in a faint, humorless smile. He talks too much, but Norris's instincts warned him otherwise. The voice wasn't just taunting, it was stalling. The trap revealed itself seconds later. A low mechanical rumble shook the ground. From the side corridors, steel shutters dropped with a thunderous crash, sealing the exits. Ahead, bright floodlights snapped on, blinding them. From the glare emerged figures, mercenaries armored and armed, stepping forward in formation. Their visors reflected the light, faceless and cold. The girl whimpered. Norris shifted her behind him, his shoulders squaring. "Stay down. Don't move." Seagal cracked his neck. "Guess we're going through." The mercenaries charged. Gunfire tore through the tunnels, deafening and sharp. Norris shoved the girl flat and surged forward like a thunderbolt. His body moved faster than bullets, weaving between bursts of fire. He closed the gap, fists crashing into armor, steel meeting flesh. One mercenary went down hard. Another staggered before Norris ripped the rifle from his grip and swung it like a club. Seagal was a shadow in motion, precise, deadly, untouchable. He slipped inside an attacker's guard, breaking an arm with one brutal twist. A knife flashed in his hand, stripped from an enemy, and he buried it into another man's vest seam before pivoting into a spinning back fist that shattered a visor. The tunnel became chaos. Screams, gunfire, the metallic clang of bodies slamming against walls. Sparks showered as stray rounds ripped pipes open, spraying steam and scalding water into the air. The girl crawled into a niche between two conduits, hands pressed to her ears, eyes wide with terror. But even as mercenaries fell, more poured in from hidden doors like an endless tide. The scarred man's voice returned, smooth and mocking. You fight like lions, but lions can bleed, and when you fall, the world won't even know your names. Your deaths will buy us time, and that girl will still belong to us. Norris slammed an enemy into the concrete wall so hard the tunnel shook. He turned, sweat and blood dripping, his voice a low growl. Not while we're breathing. Seagal kicked a mercenary down, his boot crushing the man's chest. His eyes flicked toward Norris. We can't keep this up forever. He's bleeding us dry. Norris scanned the tunnel, calculating. Then he saw it. A maintenance valve, pressure gauges spiking from the bullet damage. A plan sparked instantly. Steven, the pipes! Seagal understood without another word. Together they drove enemies back, herding them into the center of the tunnel. Then Norris twisted the valve open. The tunnel roared as superheated steam erupted, a blinding white cloud swallowing the mercenaries. Screams tore through the haze as men stumbled, blinded and burned. Norris and Seagal moved like ghosts in the mist, striking unseen, dropping their opponents one by one. Minutes felt like hours. Then, silence. Bodies lay sprawled, the survivors retreating deeper into the labyrinth. The floodlights flickered and died, plunging the tunnels back into darkness. Norris reached the girl, helping her to her feet. You okay? She nodded shakily, though her tears glistened in the dim glow of Seagal's fading flashlight. But the victory felt hollow, because from somewhere beyond the dark, the scarred man's laughter rose again, louder this time, closer. You survived the first round, good, now the real game begins. A metallic clang echoed, heavy doors shifting somewhere below. The ground trembled, and then faint but unmistakable came the sound of many voices. Girls. Dozens of them. Crying. Pleading. The girl's eyes went wide with horror. He's moving them. All of them. Seagal's face hardened. We're not in a fight. We're in a war zone. Norris adjusted his stance, jaw tight. Then we finished the war. The tunnel sloped downward, twisting deeper into the earth until the hum of machinery grew louder, heavier. The faint cries of girls echoed with every step, bouncing off the steel walls like ghosts. The girl Norris and Seagal had rescued clutched his arm tighter, her voice a fragile thread. It's not just me. There are so many more. They keep us in cages until they're ready to ship us. Norris's jaw tightened, fury simmering beneath his calm. Not anymore. Seagal swept his flashlight across the tunnel. The walls widened into a chamber where steel catwalks hung above cavernous storage bays. Down below, floodlights revealed rows of shipping containers, massive, reinforced, and locked tight. Chains rattled as shadows moved inside them. Small hands gripped the air vents. Tear-streaked faces pressed against the gaps. The girl gasped, tears welling. It's them. My friends. Seagal exhaled slowly, his voice edged with steel. We're standing in the middle of their operation. This isn't an airport anymore, it's a factory of ghosts. Norris scanned the catwalks. Guards patrolled in teams, rifles slung, radios buzzing. Some leaned lazily, confident no one would dare breach this hidden world. But that confidence was about to break. Seagal's lips curled into a thin smile. You take left, I'll take right, Norris nodded. Quiet until we can't be. They moved like predators in the dark, each step calculated, each breath controlled. Norris slipped behind a guard near the catwalk stairs, his arm snapping around the man's neck in a silent chokehold. The body went limp without a sound. He lowered him carefully to the floor. On the opposite side, Seagal caught another guard by the wrist mid-turn, twisting until the bone cracked. A muffled cry died in the man's throat before Seagal's knife finished the silence. 2 down. 10 more to go. The girl stayed hidden behind a pillar, her wide eyes following their every move. She wanted to scream for her friends, to run to them, but fear glued her in place. Then the radios crackled. Alpha team, report, no answer. A second voice, harsher. Check positions. Something's wrong. The guards stiffened. Their lazy confidence vanished. Time's up, Seagal murmured. The next seconds erupted into chaos. Norris charged down the catwalk, his boots thundering against steel. A guard raised his rifle. Too slow. Norris's fist slammed into his jaw, launching him over the railing. He hit the ground below with a sickening thud. Another lunged with a baton, but Norris caught the strike, twisted the weapon free, and snapped it across the man's face. Seagal moved with surgical precision. A rifle barked. He sidestepped, blade flashing, severing tendons before smashing the butt of the weapon into the shooter's temple. He spun low, sweeping 2 men off their feet in one fluid motion, then drove a boot into a third's chest, sending him crashing into a control console. Sparks rained from shattered electronics, alarms wailed. Red strobes lit the chamber. The hidden facility was awake. Down below, the caged girls screamed louder, their voices rising into a chorus of desperation. Tiny hands rattled the steel bars, the sound stabbing through the chaos. The scarred man's voice crackled over the PA system again, cruel and triumphant. Beautiful, isn't it? A symphony of fear. You saved one girl, but now you'll watch the rest vanish before your eyes. With a mechanical roar, massive conveyor systems rumbled to life. Chains dragged the containers toward loading docks at the far end of the chamber. Engines thundered as hidden cargo trucks came alive, ready to carry the human cargo away. Norris leapt to the lower level, landing hard. He ripped a lock chain with his bare hands, tearing it free as sparks burst from the metal. The container door swung open. Inside, girls huddled together, blinking at the sudden light. "You're safe now," he said firmly. "Stay down. We'll get you out." Seagal fired a confiscated rifle, mowing down guards trying to regroup near the trucks. His movements were economical, ruthless, each shot precise. "Chuck, we can't hold this position long. They'll flood this place with reinforcements." Norris glanced up at the terrified faces staring through the vents of the remaining containers. Too many, too far, and the trucks were rolling. The girl tugged his sleeve, desperation in her voice. "There's a master control room. Up there." She pointed to a tower of glass-walled offices overlooking the bay. "That's where they open the locks, where they stop the belts." Norris's eyes hardened. "Then that's where we go." Seagal nodded once, already reloading. "And we make damn sure this factory never runs again." The scarred man's laughter echoed louder than the alarms. "You're walking into my heart, gentlemen, and you won't walk out." Norris and Seagal stormed the steel stairs 2 at a time, the girl staying low behind them. Gunfire rained from above as guards tried to block the way, but the 2 men cut through them like fire through dry grass. Norris's fists were blunt force, breaking bones, hurling bodies over the railings. Seagal was precision. Joint locks, blade strikes, each move disabling with terrifying efficiency. The staircase became a gauntlet, but nothing slowed them. At the top, the glass-walled control room glared with red light. Inside, the scarred man waited, one hand on the master console, the other holding a pistol pressed against a young captive's head. "You move," he snarled, "and she dies." The girl behind Norris gasped. Her friend. For a heartbeat, silence ruled. The belts rumbled below, containers sliding toward the trucks. The screams of dozens of girls filled the chamber. Norris's eyes locked on the scarred man. Calm, unshaken. "You won't pull that trigger," he said. "Because the second you do, you'll never walk out of here alive," the scarred man sneered. "Then we all burn together." His finger tightened on the trigger. Seagal's voice cut in, icy and certain. "Wrong move." In a blur, Seagal hurled a knife across the room. The blade shattered the pistol from the man's grip, embedding itself into the console. Sparks erupted as systems overloaded, alarms blaring. Norris charged. The glass exploded as his boot smashed through, his body slamming into the scarred man with unstoppable force. The two crashed across the control panels, fists flying, glass cutting into skin. The fight was brutal, primal. The scarred man clawed and struck with desperation, but Norris's strikes were iron. A final spinning kick hurled the trafficker into the console. Electricity ripped through him in a blinding flash, and his scream was the last sound he ever made. Below, the conveyor belts ground to a halt. Locks disengaged. The container doors clicked open one by one. Girls poured out, their cries turning from fear into hope. Seagal stood over the smoking body, his expression unreadable. "Game over." Norris turned to the rescued girl, his voice steady. "It's done. You're free." And for the first time, she believed him.